My name is Steve Ahrens, and I was the first president of CPR. And the story that I have to tell, something I remember really vividly, took place in the early years, actually prior to CPR, when it was in the form of the Mental Patients Advocacy Project, which began in 1976 under a grant from the National Institute of Mental Health. So one Wednesday afternoon, Steve Schwartz and I believe Tom Kosh and a couple of other people, including Judge Albertus J. Morse, were walking through the locked wards at Northampton State Hospital to go to the hearing room where Judge Morse would be considering the cases of people who were under Chapter 123 up for the question of whether their commitment should be renewed for another year or not. And with us was a attendant from the hospital who would open the locked door in front of us, and then we would pass through into a locked ward, and then he would lock the door behind us, and we would go on to the next door. And after a couple of these, in which we saw nearly windowless rooms, patients in a Thorazine stupor, sitting listlessly on benches or blank chairs, we got to a point at which it was kind of a Kafkaesque journey. And at one point, Judge Morse just turned to us and he said, "Somebody should make a movie of this place and show it on television every week until they close it down." And that statement from Judge Morse stuck with me for many, many years before, in part because this was a time in which Brewster versus Dukakis was just a gleam in Steve Schwartz's eye. Steve Ahrens here again, telling a second story about the origins of and early days of CPR. So what I remember is that in the late 70s, sometime there was a conference on deinstitutionalization. It was focused almost entirely on the institutionalization of mental institutions, and it was, I don't know if it was a joint conference, but one of the participants was the head of the Department of Mental Health, Dr. Robert Oken, with whom I had quite coincidentally gone to high school. He was a year ahead of me. And in the various presentations that were made about deinstitutionalization and the hospital in particular, Dr. Oken pointed in my direction. I may have been sitting with Steve and some other people as well, but in any case, knowing me, he pointed in my direction and he said, "The only question is whether I'm going to commit you before you sue me." Well, the answer is clear. I'm still here, and the hospital is not. Thanks.
Hi, Glenn Goodnow here from the MPAP class of 1978 and 79. Just a few thoughts about my time there as an advocate working with Steve and Bob, and MPAP under the auspices of the Brewster Consent Decree at Northampton State Hospital. I was an advocate there, and I recall one of the first times I went onto the wards of the hospital and started talking to our clients about what their choices might be, post-hospital or whatever they might be, even in the hospital. And it was the concept of choice that proved to be most confusing to many of the people there, because they had never been given the opportunity to exercise their choice before, since they had been institutionalized for many, many years and all their choices had been made for them. And so here we were injecting the concept of choice, and I think we tried to execute their choices as best we could. Sometimes we were successful, sometimes we weren't, but in any event, I think overall it was successful, and I attribute that to the excellent training and supervision that we had from Steve and Bob. And in any event, I want to thank Steve and Bob for the opportunity to having worked there. It really set the stage for many aspects of my life, professional and personal. And so thank you, Steve. Thank you, MPAP. And I hope this has been helpful.
Hi, I'm Nancy Allisberg, Managing Attorney at the Connecticut P&A. I first met Bob and Steve in the fall of 1982 when they taught my disability law class. Bob was also a mentor as I was writing a law review article on a case out of the First Circuit involving access to a facility for individuals with intellectual disabilities under the DD Act. Who would have thought that that would have been what I ended up doing as my life's work? In the spring of 1983, I was up at Northampton at what was then called the Mental Patients Advocacy Project, where I first met Kathy. At that point, I don't think she had any inkling that she was going to go to law school. It was a very exciting clinic, and I remember the feeling of awe I had when I was handed a key to Northampton State Hospital. It was there that I spent my first really concentrated time in a facility and came to understand how important it was that we close them down. It's a sad statement that all these years later, we're still working in Connecticut at closing down facilities, at least here for people with intellectual disabilities. I'm really excited to be a part of this celebration of CPR, and I wish you all the best of luck and congratulations.
Hi, this is Andy Steinberg. I was Executive Director of Western Massachusetts Legal Services from 1980 till 2006, so I was very involved with the early years of the Center for Public Representation. When I arrived at Western Mass Legal Services, it was an office of our program, and in 1981 we worked together to create the separate organization that has been so outstandingly successful. So I'd like to congratulate all of the staff and all of the board, including, of course, Steve and Bob and Kathy and everybody else who's worked and labored to make it such a successful enterprise. Congratulations on your anniversary.
Hi, congratulations, everyone. Has it been that long? Wonderful to be able to send these greetings and remind us that in the time you've been doing your work, more than 100,000 people have left institutions. Northampton State Hospital is closed in a model for how to do that important work so well, and sheltered workshops are at the beginning of their end. So thank you for all you do and all you will do. God bless you all, and may this work continue. Talk to you again. See you all soon. Bye-bye.
Congratulations to the Center for Public Representation on 40 years of advocacy. This is Mike Hogan. If I have any distinction here, I may be the oldest person submitting a video who was a center defendant. That was years ago in Brewster. There were many remarkable experiences back in those days. I think, for example, of the time when Frank Robinson burst into a meeting and announced that David Brewster had refused to leave Northampton State Hospital. Of course, that got resolved. He did move back to Springfield successfully. I spent 25 years after this trying to lead mental health systems in 3 states, and I guess I'll say that I was sued often, but never as well. The center's work over the years has been marked by a fierce commitment to its clients, a collaborative as well as adversarial approach, and a fierce dedication to advancing the rights of people with disabilities. I wish that litigation wasn't necessary. I've learned it is, and thankfully the center has done it well. Congratulations.
This is Frank Lasky sending congratulations to CPR on their 40 amazing years of persistent, results-oriented advocacy in Massachusetts and across the country. I'm glad to have had the good fortune to partner and co-counsel with Steve and Kathy, Catherine, and work with Bob on a number of important matters. My best wishes to the whole team, including Pam Long and Joy Bergman, who keep the ship running and sailing in sometimes stormy weather. You guys have all changed a lot of lives for the better here and across the country, instigated and leveraged systems change that's lasting to this day, collaborating with a number of people and always maintaining high standards and high values in your work. Keep it going. We need you, and congratulations.
Congratulations on 40 years, Center for Public Representation. And to my colleagues at CPR, I highly respect your work and your legal advocacy. Leo Sarkisian with the ARC of Massachusetts, and the ARC has had the pleasure of working with CPR over the decades. Their work, as they've consulted nationally and litigated nationally, as well as advanced many policy priorities in Massachusetts, is well known. Whether it's been helping young adults get out of nursing homes into community lives, or whether it's been addressing the institutional hold on our state, or whether it's been changing probate court law so guardianship is not foisted upon young people when it should not be. The center has been there. So CPR, congratulations and great work.
I'm Bruce Rubin, one of the lawyers who worked with CPR in representing the plaintiff class in Lane versus Brown. That's the case in Oregon where we helped citizens with intellectual and developmental disabilities get integrated jobs at minimum wage or better. It took more than 4 years, so I got to know a lot of the people at CPR very well. We had many a meeting, we had depositions, court hearings, inspections of sheltered workshops, and ultimately some enjoyable dinners after we achieved our landmark settlement. I work in a large private law firm. We have a good reputation for pro bono work, but frankly, most of our clients are banks and energy companies. I tell younger lawyers in our firm that they should strive to create memories that they can look back on someday and be proud of what they have done and who they have helped. For me, that comes from helping clients achieve their civil rights, especially in situations where they might not even know the civil rights that they are missing. So our case of Lane versus Brown is my favorite story of that type. And the day that we held our fairness hearing in that case is my favorite chapter in that story. I got to see the lawyers from CPR interrogate our clients and have our clients tell the judge how important it was for them to get good integrated jobs in the community. And I got to see our lawyers work with our team of experts to explain to the judge why approving this settlement was the right thing to do. So, Lane versus Brown is something that I am very proud of when I consider the efforts that I've made as a lawyer. And the case attracted a lot of attention, even from lawyers and judges who had nothing to do with the case, who I would run into, and they would always wish me good luck. And I would say, thanks, and by the way, I am working with the most dedicated group of lawyers, a group from Massachusetts, that I've ever had the privilege to work with. So congratulations to CPR on the first 40 years. I stagger when I realize that every case that you work on is the kind of case that I had the privilege to work on, frankly, just once in a career, but I'm sure glad I did it, and best wishes to all of you.
Anniversaries are always fun because it gives people attending the public opportunity to share secrets and tell stories about the people who are actually having anniversaries. So just remember, you invited everyone here tonight to do this. And so I'm sure we're going to thoroughly enjoy hearing stories about all of you. But with respect to CPR, it's impossible, I think, to walk through and do justice to the generations of landmark cases that you have either initiated or joined. It is one illustration of your heart and your skill that CPR's litigation history in the early 1970s begins with the enforcement of individuals' civil and legal rights by, in part, ensuring that the courts test for least restrictive alternative, and you were pushing courts even then to find that the failure to provide people with community-based alternatives to institutions is a violation of the person's constitutional rights. And these are just two examples of groundbreaking decisions which continue as legal givens today. But you didn't stop there. Thanks to your phenomenal academic as well as litigation genius, by 1977 you began publishing comprehensive manuals intended to grow civil rights attorneys and non-attorney advocates like many of us here tonight. The partnerships that you forged in the 70s with institutions of higher education, with private practice attorneys, with intelligent and proactive federal judges, partnerships with providers of community services, with families, and with people of varying abilities, demonstrated then and continued to demonstrate now, again and again, how listening to each other, building on and embracing each other's strengths and abilities, results in better public policy, better advocacy, and better lives. A lesson which continues to be desperately needed nationally today. During the past 44 years, as you have transitioned from the Mental Patients Advocacy Project to the Center for Public Representation, you have never lost sight of your vision. You have never lost your dedication to people with varying abilities and those who support them. You have never lost your search for justice, honor, for rights, and for respect. All of us here tonight are blessed by learning from and associating with you. Thank you and many congratulations. And we all look forward to many more years of learning from you as well. Thank you.
Hi, Center for Public Representation. Congratulations on your 40th anniversary. It's wonderful that you've reached this point, but not at all surprising. You're a bunch of really talented, committed, and dedicated people, and you've made a huge impact on services for people with disabilities here in Western Massachusetts, in the state of Massachusetts, and indeed nationally. I think you've done a wonderful job, and I've been proud to say that I've been with you for almost every one of those 40 years. I remember sitting in Ray Breen's office in Springfield when he was area director, and he was served with the Brewster consent decree, and he was thrilled because he knew that that was the beginning of the end of the institutionalization and warehousing of people in the state. I also testified for you way back in the early 70s in federal court when I was an employee of DMH, and I actually testified against my employer at your behest. So I'm thrilled that you have done all these wonderful things over the years. I know that you guys could take everything all the way to the Supreme Court. The only thing I'd say, since I've driven with you folks around Boston, you're a bit directionally challenged, so just get someone else to drive the car, and I have no doubt that it'll be a winning team. Congratulations.